We're going to the action points because we've given you some information, but we feel like to make this even more valuable is we're going to get Dean to tell you exactly how you can improve your sleep and reap the benefits. So the first one, which Dean kind of already started going into, was getting control of the power down hour.
Your high performance power down hour needs to be individual to you. So first and foremost, if it does not align with your identity, this tool is a fucking waste of time. You have to buy into this process first. If you are somebody who wants to be, if you're listening to this podcast, you obviously see value in what Tom, Andy, and Bill put out. You obviously see value. You obviously enjoy some walk of health, fitness, well-being, and vitality. So the power down hour, 90% of the time, is gonna appeal to you or fall in line with your why and what your values are. The power down hour is a simple tool. For me, the power down hour is an opportunity to go through what we've spoke about. It's an opportunity to reduce the impact cortisol's having on the body. Now, what does that consist of? Let's not get fucking deep and sciencey. Keep it simple. How can I reduce cortisol and increase melatonin uptake? And the simple thing to do is reduce your screen time within that power down hour. So if the power down hour is you're going to be in bed, before you've even done this, you need to set a bedtime hour and keep it consistent. Your body naturally craves a circadian rhythm. Like your body is looking for regularity and routine. We all want regularity and routine. If we could, I guarantee if we could all in here, you'd be happy eating the same meal over and over and over again in order to support yourself and your goals. Because it's just fucking easy to get the shopping list. I guarantee we all go out and get the same shopping every Sunday. The same as their online order comes through. We get our Quavers, we get our Kellogg's Frosties, we get all the other bits and bobs, the Capri Suns, whatever else, and then the occasional piece of broccoli. Like, we're creatures of habit. So the power down hour, bedtime needs to be set first. And then the simple tools that I use is phone goes down 60 minutes before bed. So my bedtime this evening is going to be affected by simply being on this podcast now, which is fine. But I'll auto-regulate this and try and catch up over the next few days. So set the bedtime, put the phone away and limit screen time. For me, this is where you need to find your routine. For me, I do either go WOD or run WOD. The reason I do that is because it aligns with my goals. I, as an athlete, want to be as structurally mobile as possible. For my sport, weightlifting, and competitive functional fitness as an example, we have to be supple. You have to be supple. Me doing 20 minutes of mobility, is that going to massively, massively change the physiological adaptations inside my body? The science is a bit on and off with it, isn't it? We're doing static stretching. We're doing a bit of static stretching, a bit of dynamic movement. Yes, it may do. It makes me feel good, but it aligns with my goals of me wanting to perform better. So I want to put mobility in because it helps me wind down that routine. And that's just 15, 20 minutes. Simple. So 2 tasks, phone down. Now we've spoke about mobility. The other task that I do is I read a chapter of a book every evening. The reason for that is because that aligns with my values of wanting to continually develop and create as much impact as possible and value where I can. And the book I'm reading now, Thinking Fast and Slow. If I can't read a full chapter of this book, I'll just read 10 pages because I know that that's a commitment and a non-negotiable tick list that I can tick off. So straight away, in the power down hour, I've ticked off with my pen, phone down. I've ticked off my mobility when I've done it. I've ticked off my reading my chapter. And I'll then do the 4-4-4-4. 4 in 4 is a breathing routine. 4 minutes, 4 seconds in, 4-second pause, 4-second out, 4-second pause. Now that might seem a bit spiritual and a little bit namby-pamby to people that are listening. That's fine. That's what works for me. It might not work for you. You sitting in your chair and just doing a real deep breathing exercise for 2 minutes or 30 seconds might help you. You just laying in your bed and going might support you. The reason I do that...
Isn't like a deep breathing though? Doesn't it like trigger a signal in your brain to relax? Isn't that the whole point of a deep breath? It actually does do
meditation.
Something.
So this is the point of a mindfulness exercise. And I've just come off a course with 8 weeks with a guy called Patrick Burgess that's just done this mindful breathing stuff. And I use it now. And believe it or not, whether it's anecdotal or not, I use it with the guys that I train. Use it with the soldier athletes I work with. Because at the end of a session, once we're going through the cool down process, 10 minutes of static stretching I'm sorry to tell you, is doing fuck all.
Yeah, there we go.
It's doing nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing. I get more bang for my buck doing some active cooling down. That's fine. I'll do that just to regulate the heart rate. And then I'll get them to lay on the floor in the supine position, open up their palms, open up their feet, and I'm going to get them to close their eyes, and we're going to go for a meditative breathing practice.
Fucking hell, Dean, I'm going to have
5 minutes.
I'm taking that back to the gym, mate. That's going at ripping now. 2-1
Telling
engineering
you now.
getting that. Fucking hell.
Take 5 minutes and just get them and just do this from a physiological. We call it high performance breathing. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm not trying. Don't explain it too much to them, because otherwise you dissect and dilute what the breathing practice is. Whatever you think it is, do you know what? Stay in your own fucking lane. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It is what it is. It works for my guys that I've done it with, and that's a lot of people. And they've told me, I feel so relaxed, I feel so calm. They're now leaving a hypersensitive situation, hyper-intensive situation, and they're going off to do their own thing in a relaxed state. And every single one of them I've asked, how are you feeling? I feel fucking brilliant stuff. I feel really good. I feel chilled. Okay, what were 3 of your biggest wins from that session just then? Whoa, you put me on the spot there, Staff. All right, tell me what was one of your biggest wins in that session. Like, do you know what, Staff? I felt like I was going to give up there. I fucking felt I was going to give up at the end there. But do you know what I did? I had a word with myself, and that's a big win for me, because normally I'd fucking pull the pin and get fucking angry with people. Recognise that win, take that away, and that's exactly what that breathing practice is for me in the evening. The 4-in-4 works for me every single time, but it doesn't need to work for you. And that is essentially what the power down hour is. And then the final thing in all of that is I leave my phone on the other side of my room. I don't put it near my bed. That power down hour, I guard with my life. And I try not as much as possible. And we're all fucking human. I might find myself on a Saturday laying in bed of an evening, watching a little bit of Netflix, and I have to go, I'm like, fucking, what am I doing? And do you know what? That happens. But the old 80-20 rule, right? As long as it's not all the time. That's the key. So that's the power down hour.
Fucking hell, that's awesome advice. I love that. No, I fucking love that. I mean, especially that mindfulness stuff. That's really that's some real good takeaways. I mean, I'm definitely going to bring that back to my unit gymnasium, and definitely, because as you said, static stretching is a waste of fucking time. Why not? Why can we not turn it to something more beneficial? People always say, the argument people give back to me is, what can we do instead? But now that sounds like a fucking really good option instead. Bit of active recovery, and then 4-in-4. I mean, that just sounds brilliant. So
4-in-4. And do you know what I'll say, Bill? Anybody that's listening to this, get your athletes, first of all, to feel the rise and fall of the chest, and then tell them, okay, now close your eyes, take your mind all the way down to your toes, and then gradually, really slowly, whilst you're speaking to them, say, okay, now, what sensations you're feeling in your toes? Is it hot, cold, tingling? Guarantee you, they will feel a sensation. They will then feel a sensation of the arch of the foot, the heel, the shin, the back of the knee, the complex knee joint, the hip, the thigh, the hip girdle, all of this area. And then we work down the extremities of the arm. What are you feeling in your fingertips? Close their eyes, just real chill talking. Feel the rise and fall of the chest to finish, and then bang, 4 minutes done. And they walk away, they're like, whoa, shit, the bed. And do you know what's even funnier? I did this with my commanding officer, who used to be Special Forces.
You hypnotised him.
No, it wasn't. Not even it was nothing like that. And it's not that at all, because that's skeptical bullshit that I don't agree with. But he even came away from that. He's like, do you know what? I've had a fucking stressful 4 or 5 days, and that hit the nail on the head. That's the
guy who was fucking in the most sort of intense job role you could probably be in Special Forces.
Yeah, and drop this male bullshit stigma. Such a bullshit stigma that we can't do this because it's too spiritual. Try it first. Try it first. No, and if you don't agree with it, that's absolutely fine. And it's science is fantastic. Science is great. But sometimes it doesn't paint the full picture. That's all I'm going to say. So try something first, because you might just see the benefits. And we already see how good meditating or breathing can be. We call it mindful breathing or high performance breathing, to make it sound a little bit more meaty.
Sexy.
High performance breathing. And get them to understand what we're trying to achieve.
I'm definitely
try it. So. And that's the power down.
Breathing classes are actually becoming quite popular as of recent. Funny enough. Well, I say as of recent, before COVID. Yeah, I started noticing, particularly my local area. I mean, even in some, what they call David Lloyd gyms, they actually have like breathing classes. And it is popular, and it does work. It's
what you
not
do
pseudoscience.
You're targeting the one thing that we all have in our life, and that's stress. And it's stress management.
Exactly.
Yes.
There you go.
It's stress management. It's so easy. Yeah. But this one word formulates, think of your house. Before you build your house, the concrete layer has to be built first. The base layer has to be built.
The foundations.
The foundations. So the performance foundations, the concrete layer of your pyramid or your house, whichever you're building, picture a beautiful countryside, wherever the fuck it is. The base layer of that falls into sleep hygiene, stress management, recovery, hydration, and movement. Those 5 things formulate the base layer of your performance scale. Before you start climbing the ladder of success and start talking about energy balance, macronutrients, meal timings, strength, reps, rest, ratio, intensity, volume, load, fucking recovery tools, injury management, injury prevention, before you start talking about any of that, those 5 things, if you've completely gone in the dustbin with them, guess what? Stress management's going to be through the fucking roof and you ain't going to perform. And every other facet that you want to walk to into life, your house is going to crumble. It's going to crumble at some point. One of the corners of that house, the foundation, is going to start to fall down. Whether that be in performance, life, whatever, marriage, relationship. If you can't get those 5 things in check, why bother with anything else? But what we do, we turn it all upside down and we try and build from the roof up. And we go, badoosh, I'm going to go to supplements first because I think that's what's going to work. I'm going to try CBD. I'm going to try cold water immersion. I'm going to try...
fortune in the process.
Yes, I'm going to worry so much about the tempo, execution, variability of an exercise. I'm going to worry about the biomechanical model of a perfect squat. And worry about all this shit. And I'm like, how long are you sleeping for, mate? 2 hours a night. And you're worried about all that. Your stress management. Andy's saying it now every single time, isn't it? It's stress management.
I like it.
Get on top of it. And that's just one aspect. That's one aspect. Power down hour, baby.
Should we move on to the next point then?
So
point number 2.
Unless Andy's got something. Hang on.
Well, no, I just, when you say about like that, so my wife, she's fucking absolutely terrible with her phone. It's like that. Like, she'll be tired, but she'll have her phone when she goes to bed. But we're totally opposite. So I'll walk in, I'll plug my phone in, it'll be on the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm really quite lucky where as soon as my head hits the pillow, I don't want to talk unless we're pumping. Like, I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything now. I'm going to bed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've always been brought up, your bed is for 2 things, pumping and sleeping. If you're not doing one, you're doing the other, you know? And so, yeah, I'm quite lucky in the sense of, like, I don't take my phone to bed. I don't sit there for hours on it.
But look at where that started. You were brought up being told that your bed is for pumping and sleeping.
Yeah.
From a psychological standpoint, every time you go into that room, you're thinking sex or sleep. Easy.
How old are you? You got told this, Andy? You weren't like 3 or 4, were you?
No, yeah.
No.
I was like younger. No, but do you know what I mean? Like,
Listen,
when
son.
Like, no, like my mum was like, when I was youngster, it's like, right, this is, you don't like, my mum would always brought up like, you don't lay in bed all day. Get up, get out of bed, move in, let's go.
So
like,
you are now ingrained, your grassroots have been ingrained into you from an early onset, that you're probably now an early riser-ish compared to the general pop. You probably, like you said, hit the pillow, go to sleep. You leave your phone on the floor and you don't have a TV in your room.
Yeah.
So straight away, we could have already established that because you were told from a young age that your bedroom is sleeping or pumping.
Yeah.
And imagine if everybody else took that. And even if you're not getting your 8 hours sleep or whatever it is that you're getting, you've already set the foundations for success because you've looked at putting your phone on the floor, you're either pumping or sleeping, and you're waking up at a relatively reasonable hour. Like you said, 5:30, 6 o'clock early riser.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, I've been a few times, you know, where you get a bit like, oh, I'm not too sleep, I'll just sit about, I'll wait till I fall asleep. My arms just get too tired, you know, and like fucking trying to do stuff. I'm just, bollocks of this, I'm going to bed. You know
but that doesn't mean that we haven't been caught in that death scroll. Everybody gets caught in the death scroll.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
But if you can get control of your power down hour, like it sounds like you have, because your protocol at the minute works. Go up to bed, your phone gets plugged in, it gets put to the side. That's it, down, done.
Down, yeah.
And that works for you. But that might not work for me or Tom or Andy.
No, you're
we
right.
might have to go deeper. But it's perfect that you've already established that foundation and gone, do you know what? Sleep's important because fucking mum told us from the age of 4, it's pumping or sleeping.
Yeah.
And I know not to have a TV in my room because the bedroom is for sleeping. That's it. You've set the foundations of your power down now.
So, point number 2 is manage the munchies.
So this was drafted up because a lot of the people I work with come from a performance background. It's not often I come across people that a byproduct of what we do is about body composition, but that's a byproduct. It's not the primary aim. The primary aim is a performance-based metric or performance-based goal. So we're either chasing a number of different things. As a tactical athlete, we're looking to optimize performance across the 7 foundational movement patterns and across a whole other aspect of movement components. With an everyday athlete, they come to me with a performance goal. And 9 times out of 10, it's to do with strength metrics. It's to do with capacity work, improving run times, improving rowing times, cycling times, whatever it might be. And we work with those people because they've come to me with a performance goal and I give them an S&C protocol. But often when we spoke about the habits, managing the munchies seemed, and this stemmed from me smoking weed as a young boy. Smoking weed and getting the munchies at midnight, I was like, holy shit. You would constantly go and find anything that you could get your hands on and chomp into. And anybody that smoked a joint will back me up here. Midnight munchies is a real thing. Science, fact. I'm hashtagging that. But managing the munchies was also a concept that looked at what my performance athletes were doing before they were doing their power down hour. And when I started to speak to them, and this is before we've even put any nutritional strategies in place, not giving, and they're talking strategies, not direct plans, strategies. Before we start going, okay, let's get our calorie targets set slightly here. Let's try and adjust this, the behavior behind it. Remember, we've set the pillars of stress management, sleep, hygiene, hydration, recovery, and movement. We've already done them. But the managing the munchies was people in an evening between the hours of about 6 and 10 going for those hyper palatable foods and not understanding why it was affecting their sleep. So I had to get them to think about what they were doing. And rather than me directing it, it had to be an open question. I was like, so what are you doing before bed? And they'd be like, I'm on my phone. Okay, what did you eat before bed? What did you have to talk to me through the meals that you had when you got home? And they'd be like, yeah, I had my high protein dinner, you know, I put some carbs in there just to support me because I had a workout about 3, just wanted to get those post-workout carbs in, yada, yada, yada. It's like, awesome. Did you have anything else? Yeah, I had a bag of Haribo and some other stuff because I was just chomping at the bit. And I'm like, okay, did you drink some fluids? Did you try drinking some water? And bear in mind, they haven't even worked with me yet. We're just going through the consultation phase. And they're like, nah, I haven't really. I'm like, right, okay. All of that hyper-palatable, really engorging food that you're eating it's hyper-palatable for that reason, because it's easy digestion, and those munchies that you have automatically go for those refined carbs and those high sugar solutions. Why? Because we have looked at that dopamine response that we get from eating that food. So how can I now give them another dopamine response? And we can get a dopamine response from eating is an example, but we can also get dopamine responses from being successful at something. You get a dopamine response from enjoying Stroking puppies gives you a dopamine response. I'm not forever saying that people should be doing this, but what other avenues could we go down to get a dopamine response? The feeling of being satisfied. And managing the munchies, we were looking at, right, how can we get a higher protein intake to manage satiation in your evening meal, but then also give you a little bit of what you want and a lot of bit of what you need. And little things like substitute a casein pudding. I'd go to a casein pudding with a protein bar, and that would suit me to the T. Why? Because it aligned with my values once again. Because it aligned with my nutritional values of getting and being the best that I could be in terms of performance. It's the same with every other athlete. Every single one of you, truth be told, you want to perform better. With its CrossFit, lifting, running, whatever it is you want to do. You want to be the best. Whatever you do, yeah. You want to be the best at what you can do it. So where does managing the munchies come from? Well, it's coming from a place where we're trying to manage the hitting the kid's sweet cupboard or the fridge, the chocky drawer in the fridge or wherever it is. We're looking to hit those satiation levels. How can I increase your satiety of an evening? And if that means that I give you your meal And then we put a little bit of threshold in there so you can enjoy something like casein pudding with a sprinkle of Maltesers on, because it's a little bit of what you want and a lot of bit of what you need, then we've done our job. So that was where this mid-managing the Munchies sort of stemmed from. And I don't own the term. It's just something that I'd heard before.
Yeah, it just sounds quite individual. It sounds like something you'd have to speak to people on a one-to-one basis and see what would work for them, because everyone's obviously different, aren't they? And especially with this.
One thing I do want to say that we restrict anything either.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say though on this is to do with food and stuff is about protein. You mentioned it a couple of times there. So there's insufficient data to firmly conclude what I'm about to say, but there is a couple of studies I'm going to put in the show notes which indicate a higher protein intake could improve sleep. And that it's very unlikely that a higher protein intake is going to impact sleep if you have it before bed. So what that's suggesting is that if you are really struggling with sleep, one of the small things you could do is have a higher protein intake before bed. So instead of doing what, as Dean said, instead of going for them more highly palatable foods that you have, like the bag of Haribo, like he said, he has a casein pudding. That's a high protein meal, and that this data suggests that could also have an impact on improving his sleep by up to 20-30%. It's obviously going to be different for everyone, but these are small things you could do which are achievable. Yeah, that could make a difference.
And in the same breath, don't eat a big meal before you go to bed.
Yeah, definitely
God,
not.
No.
Yeah.
Because that would just be silly.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back the knock-on effect of having a higher protein diet in the during the day means that you're going to be more satiated, which means that you may not want to go and look for those hyperpalatable foods because your body's telling you that you don't need it.
You are full.
You are full. Drink some water. Fantastic. So it's one of
another
those.
one in particular of casein protein, kind of round towards that evening time anyway. It's quite a popular one. I mean, like especially when you go like nighttime blend. I don't want to call them nighttime blend proteins because, as you kind of said, you don't want to be fucking guzzling protein shakes before bed anyway. But it's the whole idea is that it's like a slow digesting protein. I mean, just pick the protein you prefer, really. You know what I mean?
Enough that you need for your goals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the studies with regards to a whey isolate and a casein protein, a casein is a naturally slower releasing protein.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about satiation and keeping and trying to averse the process of muscle atrophy and increase recovery, casein protein is probably going to be a useful tool for you if you were a high-performing athlete or somebody who partakes in resistance training regularly.
Mm-hmm. But when they call it like a nighttime blend.
But again, and it's the same with female blend protein and male blend protein. There's fucking no difference. It's a con. It's an absolute
marketing tool, isn't it?
Marketing,
It's a con. And they should be like, stop. What are you fucking selling that for?
It's like the pink dumbbells versus the black dumbbells, but they're both 10 kg no matter what.
But they associate the colour being a more friendly colour, which means they'll pick it up. Exactly that, mate. Process.
Let's go on to the next one, guys, which is daily exercise is a golden ticket. I like the language used in this one. It's quite exciting.
The reason it was the golden ticket was because daily exercise does a number of different things. We can all sit here and understand what daily exercise allows us to do. And it doesn't matter what walk of life you're going into, but people that participate in regular daily activity have been shown to have better quality sleep than those that don't. So does this mean, like I said in the show, in the blog, does this mean you need to go into the gym and absolutely obliterate yourself? No, it doesn't. Can we find protocols that support your lifestyle? And as a Gen Pop, if that means you walk in little Jack Russell for 30 minutes twice per day, if that's part of your regime, then that's a regime where you have increased your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Or in some cases, it might be exercise activity thermogenesis. We've programmed exercise into your day. And it may even conclude, it doesn't have to be, it really, really doesn't have to be pumping the gym, being this crazy performance athlete. It's got to be seen from both parts. But on the flip side of that, you also need to understand that daily exercise is a golden ticket when you apply the minimum effective dose. What do we often see? People apply an overtraining principle as opposed to an overreaching principle. So they train like mad, they go crazy, obliterate themselves, their body goes into this shutdown response. They then go for the hyperpalatable foods because their body's going into shutdown response, and straight away the cortisol levels are raised. They can't then sleep, and it's got a waving effect, and they constantly go through the cycle. It's the same.
And then you can't recover or adapt because that dose is inappropriate.
Exactly. So when we talk about the phrase specific adaptations to imposed demands, right? A lot of people focus on the imposed demand. They go, how can I fucking hit myself hard here? Rather than focusing on the adaptation. And as a CrossFit athlete, as people in the CrossFit community, you will definitely preach and back me up here, Bill and Andy. People, if they haven't got an effective program and they're following something like the athlete program as an example or whatever, their bodies often aren't ready to tolerate that level of exercise.
Exercise works on like a dose-response relationship. So kind of what you're going off there is, we've got to speak about the individual. So the dose you may be given may be too much, or it could be too little for you. But then that same dose might be more appropriate for someone else. It depends on various different factors, including training age, etc. But yeah, 100%. Like that's why a while ago I kind of joked and said like my idea of being a PTI in the British Army is my idea of a nightmare, because I've only ever worked with individuals, and my fear of working with a group of people is that I've kind of just got to like plaster them all with the same thing and be.
It's hard fucking work, Tom. I'll tell you that.
It's hard to. I can imagine, mate. Honestly, you guys have, all three of you have my utmost respect, because I would not be able to do it. I'd panic.
But in the same breath,
I'd be RPE 10 everyone and just hope for the best.
But in the same breath, I guarantee that Bill and Andy know how to apply auto-regulation to the client and demographic they're working with the athletes I work with. If I put a prescribed load on the bar and say it's X said, if I then say to everybody, guys, if this is taking you over a 6 out of 10 in today's session, you need to fucking drop the shit down.
Yeah.
You need to focus on owning the positions and moving with intent. You don't need to focus on killing yourself and putting yourself into an early grave. And that's the language that we've got to use. When we go back to that golden ticket, even in a group setting like PTIs can, we can give exercise and training to the athletes we're working with as a golden ticket. This is yours. You own this protocol. You own this training session. This is the specific adaptation. This is the minimum effective dose. We're not overtraining. We're not trying to reach too far, but we are applying the right adaptation at the right time to get the right demand that we're imposing on our body to allow us to adapt and recover correctly. But if you do too much of it, it's not going to help. If you do fuck all, then that's also going to impact your sleep. So to bring it all back round, it's all well and good doing exercise. But again, it's got to be individual to you. And that's my opinion with everything. And the army's shifting slowly. It is catching up. We are getting more individualized with design, but still a long way to go, in my opinion.
I mean, there is like a recent study in particular on like exercise on sleep. I mean, I say there's one study in particular. There's fucking loads of them. But I mean, one that caught my eye, because you're talking about when you said like the minimum dose.
Yeah.
And that's what I quite like, is that sometimes people don't realise just how little they can do for exercise to impact their sleep. So I've got a paper here, The Effect of Daily Walking Exercise on Sleep Quality in Healthy Young Adults. And that was by Wan 2020. And it basically concluded daily walking exercise has a significant effect on facilitating sleep quality and sleep components among young, healthy adults. Further studies are suggested to examine the impact of walking intensity on sleep quality, as per usual. In regards to this, their idea of aerobic activity was, it was like about an hour a day, but as long as it was like 10 minutes of steady state walking. And it was quite slow steps as well. I think it was something like 1,200 steps per 20 minutes or something along those lines. Yeah, so it's not that much. Do you know what I mean? It's not that intense.
How much does it gripe on you that people prescribe 10,000 steps? Does it gripe on you? Does it, like,
not as much as it used to.
Okay, but are we in agreement?
Sorry, no. Okay, yeah.
So when we talk about individual and in context, 10,000 steps is all well and good, because 10,000 steps has been shown to be, I think the crossover is somebody who is of a healthy adult that is able to maintain some form of vitality. They're still pretty healthy, and it keeps all heart risk and heart disease at bay, etc., etc. And it equates to like, 4 mile or whatever it is. So, but the problem I have with 10,000 steps is quite often people's first port of call in an individual program that they're also
steps.
training on is your daily non-negotiable task is to hit 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
My daily non-negotiable task is only to hit 8,000 steps.
Yeah.
Why? Because that means that that's in keeping, and I'm not going to start losing my shit if I don't hit 10,000 steps. And the minute we don't hit 10,000 steps, how do we feel? We feel deflated. What then happens?
Yeah.
Stress management, cortisol levels through the roof, same
Sick
knock-on
shit.
effect, back through the cycle
Do
again.
you know what? I mean, I wrote something about this recently for Instagram, actually, and I do kind of see where you're getting with that. So first of all, if people want to do 10,000 steps a day, fantastic. I would encourage as much movement as possible.
Yes.
But kind of like what you said there, Dean, about people getting that negative effect. By prescribing just 10,000 as the go-to number, it gives you that negative, it could be a nocebo here, it gives you that negative expectation that this is the minimum dose I need to hit for these steps to even count towards being healthy, to count towards sleep. But I mean, actually, like, we've actually got evidence to show that doing as little as 2,000 extra steps on top of your baseline.
Yeah.
I
was going to say, I think they've even seen that. They've even. I'm sure there was a study that said 4,000 steps can be just as effective in maintaining a healthy working heart as 10,000 steps. But obviously, more movement,
better.
Sometimes more is just fucking more.
Yeah.
Right?
No, yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean better. But like you said there, how many times have we got to watch or been told, 10,000 steps is the absolute number?
I've only hit 9,000. The day's ruined.
Honestly. But this is the thing. When all this technology first came out and exercise is the golden ticket, I was the bloke that was going, I haven't hit my 15,000 steps today. I'm going to go outside and run. That then has a knock-on effect. This is 9 o'clock at night. My cortisol levels are through the roof, and I'm wondering why I'm not sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, what like the NHS recommends, like for moderate activity, which is basically a brisk walk, they recommend 150 minutes
150 minutes moderate activity per week, yeah.
If you're doing just like, so the average person, it takes them 20 minutes to do 2,000 steps, right? So if you're doing 2,000 steps every day as like a moderate pace all in one go, if you're doing that every day, just 2,000 steps, straight away you're just underneath that 150 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And 2,000 steps isn't really that hard for someone to do steady state. So, it's a good way of saying, look, the barrier to introduce exercise to your life isn't actually that high. Do you know what I mean? You can do it. You haven't got to do the 10,000. If you want to, cool, go for it. But just so you know, it's not the end of the world because you've done 9,999 steps.
What I don't like is the fact that someone will go, right, I need to be active, I need to be healthy, and they put quite a big challenge straight away. And for someone that is sat at a desk 8 till 5 every day in a high stressful environment, then having to do 10,000 steps on top of that, but yet they drive home, or they might not live in the best area, it's raining outside, it's cold, it's windy, you're just literally fueling that I'm bound to fail fire right there and then.
Yeah.
So stress comes in again.
and you've got to watch saying you're failing, something to look at. How
and it
shit
tells
is
you
that?
you need to move.
Yeah, so for me it would be as simple as, do you know what? I'm going to walk to work one day a week. That's my one goal,
Yeah.
Don't matter how long it takes me. Like a Friday, do you know what? I can walk to work and I can just walk home. I don't have to worry about what time I get home because I can just walk home. Something like that. Something so simple. Do you know what? When I go for a cigarette, instead of using the lift, I'm just going to actually use the stairs and 2 flights. Just something so simple that could have
Easy.
a massive benefit and a massive effect on your, like, the pattern that you could potentially set.
But do you know what it takes to do that? In my opinion, from a biased approach, it actually takes a little bit of coaching. I truly believe it actually takes a little bit of coaching, because it allows you to be held.
outside opinion seeing in, or what?
Yeah.
What's that saying? Yeah, it's like someone looking
an outside, exactly that outside perspective, looking into looking into your internal thought process.
Yeah.
So if we take an outsider's perspective and look at your internal thought process, internal behaviors, you're not going to recognize, or you're going to have a very biased approach to what you think you need to do. You're going to pick what you like to do.
Yeah,
but as a coach, we're going to go back to giving you a lot of what you need and a little bit of what you want. So if you want to go for a good bit of walking and that fits with your lifestyle, I'm going to give you a lot of what you need. You need that walking, but it's also a little bit of what you want as well. If that means we're going to do 15 minutes of Zumba every single day in your room, or you're going to do Joe Wicks PE, yeah? If that's something that you're going to do and it means that you're moving, guess what? That's a lot of what you want, or a lot of what you need, and it's also a little bit of what you want as well. We've fed that void, we fed that portal and that bowl of what works for you as a golden ticket. And that's what's key, mate. So I'm going to be biased towards coaching, because I think to understand and unlock your true potential as an everyday athlete, as a human being, as whoever you are, working with a coach that aligns with your values will show you all of these processes, which is why I live by the mantra strength, movement, mindset, and performance, because all of that links into performance and that golden ticket, right? It's putting interventions in place.
You mentioned mindset there, Dean. I think that moves us quite nicely on to the final sleep tip, and that is take control of your mind and clear your head. So the easiest way I can describe this is it obviously comes back to stress. It obviously comes back to stress to a degree. But the 5 people you surround yourself with, they all have a huge impact on your life. The 10 people you surround yourself with have a significant impact on your life. The 15 people you surround yourself with can quite often have an overwhelming impact on your life. So understand the people that you are around. So when I'm talking about control your mind and clear your head, this is why that 4-in-4 breathing routine is so good at the end of the day. For me, regardless of the situation, whether it's been a high stress day, whatever it might be, I use my journal, and you can call it whatever the fuck you want. You can sit there and you can call it spiritual, over the top, a little bit puffy, whatever you want to call it is absolutely fine. But for me, I do it on a daily basis, and they literally live by me every day, these 2 books. One's the journal I write in, the other one is the Daily Stoic. And anybody that's on Instagram will see I put pictures of this. You post every day, don't you? Yeah. Every day without fail. Do you know why I do that? Because it keeps me accountable. I post that every day, and at the end of the day, I'll reflect on some of the words and the language that has been used in that. Is it over the top? It might be, but that might not work for you. It might not work for you. And I've heard this phrase before, and I love the phrase before. I have been a gunner in a Challenger 2 tank. That's 72 tons of absolute brute aggression. You want to know what the most powerful tool is? The most powerful weapon I've ever had before is a fucking pen. Believe it or not, a pen is probably one of the most powerful things I've used. Because no matter what's happened in that day, no matter what's happened in my life, I will take my high performance planner, and I call it a high performance planner because it doesn't sound so off-putting when I call it my diary or my journal. So the high performance planner allows me to do 3 things. I write down what I'm grateful for that day, and 9 times out of 10 it will probably be something to do with family. It will probably do something to do with my health, my profession, my ability to educate, whatever it might be, impact, value, whatever. It doesn't matter. The next thing I'll do is I'll then write down 3 of my biggest wins so far, or 3 of the biggest wins of that day. So we've done gratitude, we've done wins as a reflective practice. And then the final piece I'll do is, what am I going to do tomorrow that I wish I had done today?
That's it. 3 things. What am I going to do tomorrow? And that's not living in guilt or in doubt. It's just, what can I do tomorrow to become 1% better? If I can be 1% better every single day, that's 365% better every single year. That means that aligns with my values and my why about who the person I want to be. And I want to create as much impact as possible. I want to, on my deathbed, and it sounds fucking morbid, but on my deathbed, when somebody's reading out my eulogy, I want it to say a whole host of different things about the person I was. Caring, compassionate, empathetic, incredible husband, father, somebody who was loyal, respectful, honest, lived by a set of values, was integral, created impact, leader, all this stuff. I want that to be, I don't want people, the best way to describe it, I don't want somebody at my eulogy to read all that stuff out and then go, but he was this. I don't want to hear anybody say the word but. So when I say take control of your mind, it took me a fucking long time to do this. It took me a long time to come out of my shell and stop giving a shit about what people think. Do you know how long I spent in a cave, sat there going, what if somebody says this about me? And I'm like, do you know what? I don't fucking care. I literally don't care. And I'm sorry about the profanity, but it's the reason why you started this podcast. It's the reason why you 3 came together. It's the reason why Tom calls out people's bullshit on Instagram. It's all the same reason, because the values that you have is you don't care. You live by virtue, and you live by the foundation that you want to live a fruitful, virtuous life. You want to be, your vitality and wellness is important to you. My mental health is important to me. And I don't suffer with anything. Never have done. Never have done. I'm very fortunate in that respect that I've been surrounded by incredible people that have stopped me from going into that place. And the reason, one of the biggest factors, is because I've taken control of my mind, and it's allowed me to write my thoughts into abstract things. Once they become abstract, they're no longer stuck in your head. What happens when things are stuck in your head when you're laying in bed? Straight away. Tom already alluded to it today. Andy already alluded to it. Bill, you alluded to it. If things are stuck in your head, guess what? You can't sleep. What happens when you can't sleep? You think about going to sleep. And then you think about thinking about sleeping, and you're like, why the fuck am I thinking about sleeping? So you get out of bed and then you fucking have a word with yourself. And it goes back all into this. This has stopped me thinking about things. It allows me to put it into abstract thought. And it will only ever be positive shit that goes in it. Only. What am I grateful for? What are my wins? How can I make impact the next day? Does that mean that I'm an elite fucking... I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a fucking Gary Vee. I'm not a whoever. Fucking Virgin Active, Bill Gates, whoever you want to call yourself. I'm not that type of person. But what I do give a shit about is I give a fucking shit about my health. And if I want to be 110 years old, which is a goal, if I want to be 110 years old and be able to run down the street at 90 years old with my children, I need to do this because it aligns with my why. And it, whatever you think, it really doesn't matter whatever you think. It's got to be powerful. It might be whatever you want to call it, but this gets filled every day, and it's just one page every day, just to write down my thoughts, write down whatever it is, whatever my next project, whatever. But
do you feel that when you write something down on paper that there's some, so kind of getting a bit spiritual here, but no, like more psychology, but
yeah,
there's power in something physically materializing. So when that exits your brain and actually onto paper, onto something physical, it suddenly exists.
Yes, because it's become abstract. And if you want to get into the, I don't want to tarnish what it is that it is, because yes, it might be a little bit spiritual. Like,
no, there is psychology in spiritualism.
There is, of course there is. And I don't want to go down that pathway because some people just ain't spiritual, and that's fine. I am not spiritual, and I'm not religious in any way. If that's you, that's fine. What I am is somebody that is trying to be better. I'm trying to be better in myself, mentally and physically. And if that means writing that down and making it abstract, and it stops me stressing about things, going back to Andy's point of stress management, it stops me stressing about things because I've written down page after page after page of what it is in this book that's allowing me to write my thoughts down and not worry about it. I'm then going to reduce the cortisol response inside my body.
So I had that at Headley from being injured for quite a few years. I dealt with sort of anxiety of not being good enough.
Yeah.
Like, why are these, like, I could function normally, but I couldn't function like perform physically because of my like shins and that. So I was going through this process of like why, and then I got put onto like an anger management course. Not like with people or anything like that. It was just the fact that it was internal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing. So I'd go at the end of the day and I would split the page in half, and it would be things that I can deal with, things that I couldn't deal with, sort of like what I could have control of, what I can't have control of.
Fucking bravo.
And it was you'd write them down, and then at the end of the day, sort of an hour to 2 hours before you'd sort of sack the day off, and you could go through each one and just have a quick explanation of going, right, okay, sort of that guy flipped me off as he like cut the corner. That really upset me. Can I do anything about it? No. All right, so I put it into a bracket. Why can't I do anything about it? Because I can't go to him. I can't speak to him about it. Why am I letting it play on my mind? Don't know. Right, let's leave it. We've put it to paper. It's been dealt with, and that's the mechanism of dealing with it. Yeah, so I get you where you're at with that. I quite like it. It's not spiritual. It's a process.
It's a process.
It's a process of being able to, and like you say, it may work, it may not. It took me a while to understand the process of why I'm doing what I'm doing, but writing it down after, like, time and time again, it became like a pattern, and I kind of felt like I understood every time I wrote something down, good or bad. You know, it might be a case of like, oh yeah, I missed my rehab this morning. Okay, what can I do about it? Well, actually, I can go to bed a little bit earlier next time. I can get up a little bit earlier next time, and I can get in early and hit it harder. So exactly. I can definitely understand that point. And you writing it down, it's a little bit like accountability.
Yeah.
Because saying it, you can say whatever you like. It doesn't mean anything. But when you write it down, you physically giving yourself accountability. And then the next day, if you didn't hit that accountability, you've got evidence there of saying that it didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? So, yeah, I agree with you.
I'm going to jump on the back end of what you said. There's 3 notebooks there.
Fucking hell.
3. Like, just full of them. Full of fucking pens. Do you know what, mate? Do you know how the fact that you've just shown a little bit of vulnerability, just a little bit of vulnerability, and you don't have to go spiritual because that's not the case, but you've shown a little bit of vulnerability. I'm not even joking you. Bill, feel free to edit this bit out. Do you have any idea how much that will resonate with every single serving soldier that you come into contact with? And this is the reason why. This is called delayed gratification. Okay? Every single day, like you just said, I write on this post-it note something that really got me going. Like you did. Somebody flicking me off. Somebody being a prick. Whatever. Something I disagreed with. This then goes in here. Yes, it's called delayed gratification, so it should be about what you're grateful for. I actually use it because it allows me to go back and see some of the stupid shit that I was pissed at. This goes into the jam jar. After a month, it gets emptied. We read the post-it notes that are all in there. And then do you know what we do with them? Stick them in the bin. Somebody might go, what a fucking waste of time.
It's not bad, is it?
But guess what? That process that I put into place, that's why I'm getting a good night's sleep every night. That's why
feel good. Yeah.
I'm recovered. It makes me feel fucking good. If you going into the gym and beating the shit out of a punch bag makes you feel good and you picture that aggression, that's all well and good. But guess what? It's still up here in the head. It's still stuck in your mind. Although you've punched a punch bag physically, it's still here. You're still going to stew on it. Me, just write it. And it goes in the bin after 30 days. I read all of them after 30 days. And then I go...
Because what do we do normally? We stress about something. Next morning, it's kind of like, what was that all about? We do it with problems, don't we? Like, let's take, for instance, an officer will be like, can't wait for that. And you're like, uh-oh. In your head, you're like, shit. And you just play on this stress. And then the next day, they'll be like, oh, it didn't matter. And you're like, oh my God, it mattered to me. Yeah.
That all came from this for me. The fact that you can't control whatever you want to call it, but you can't. This is controlling your mind. Yeah. Knowing that everything in your life is pretty much out of your control. you cannot control, there's very little you can control. The thing that you do have a control over is your choice. And your choice to put that shit in your head is going to have an effect on all of this sleep stuff we've just spoken about. So if I take that choice and go, I'm going to make a choice and put it onto a bit of paper, like you did, Andy, when you split your page in half, and look at the difference it's made. You are now in this position you're in now, talking about this to help somebody else because it helped you. And it's exactly what I'm doing. And whether it's the aggregation of marginal gains and looking at delayed gratification, whether it's journaling, whether it's reading a book, whatever, that is taking control of your mind. That is clearing your head. And the clearing the head concept is you taking this weapon system and shooting the shit out of that piece of paper.
Just for our listeners, Dean was holding up a pen.
Sorry.
Yeah, just
Yeah, sorry.
He's not holding a weapon.
Okay.
There doesn't need to be an investigation.
I was going the other way there. I was thinking like weird sexual stuff or something weird.
The girls had better check their stools.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah.
So,
There's a GPMG missing.
Careful where you go with that story. They're already in a But yeah, so taking the pen and shooting the paper. Like just getting everything that I can, like Andy's done. Still learning how to be a better athlete. Still learning how to be a better coach. Nobody's fucking perfect. I ain't perfect at all this. I'm not perfect in my power down hour, my managing my munchies. I've just ploughed through a packet of sweets. And that was at about 8 o'clock. So I might be all right. But this is what I'm referring to. We're talking about this stuff. We're just human beings. But guess what? We go back to the 80-20 rule. I don't do that all the time. That's once in a blue moon. But I tell you what, I still sleep great tonight because I'll still go through my power down hour. I'll still do my routines and habits and put them into place. And all of this compound effect is what is going to yield the biggest return. And do you know what? People will pay lip service to it. It's fine. Do you know what? It doesn't matter. Because for me, I don't care. If it can help one person, I've done my job. If that means it's helped one of us four in this room, brilliant. If it's helped me by talking about it, if it's helped you guys by listening about it, whatever, that's good. We've made impact.